We can go ahead and dive in. Again, appreciate everybody joining. This is a partner webinar. I'm joined by, as Prakash introduced himself, Prakash with Decimal. He's the co-founder. We're going to be talking specifically about the three shipping leaks that typically quietly eat Shopify profit or profit in general. I think something that's important to note about this entire presentation is that while Prakash and Decimal are very focused on Shopify, and that is like a core part of how Decimal operates. A lot of what we're talking about can be applied to any sort of store that you're using. A lot of what we're talking about actually comes down to sort of cleaning up your checkout flow and making sure that it is as buyer friendly as possible and that you discourage abandonment, right? And that's what everybody wants. So in the next 30 minutes, what we're going to be talking about are the three, again, shipping leaks. The first one we'll be talking about is how to re-engineer your free shipping. Free shipping is for customers and consumers very obviously a good thing, right? If you're buying something, you love to see free shipping. It's a great thing. But for sellers, as I'm sure you're aware, it eats into your margins, right? It's sort of a necessary evil that a lot of people deal with, but there are ways outside of just dealing with it to make sure that you're, sort of recouping that cost. The second one that we'll talk about is calculated rates. So when you're talking about rates for shipping on your orders at checkout, there is some logic that you can apply to those rates that are generated to make sure that things actually convert for you, that you're giving people, a fair calculated rate and not discouraging people in different geographic locations from buying. And then the last thing is eliminating cart abandonment by that's caused by shipping windows that are sort of all over the place, right? That maybe don't accurately represent what the actual shipping window is. So we'll give you some practical tips for combating that vagueness that exists in shipping windows specifically. Anything you wanted to add to that, Prakash?
No, that's good. Let's go for the very first one.
Perfect.
Free shipping. Well, we all know that shipping is never free, but Amazon has caused everybody to expect it free. So I'm going to show you a technique that will help offset up to 10% of your shipping costs. So let's go to an actual store. This is from Gymshark, and if you check out something at Gymshark, click checkout, this is what you will see: free shipping and express shipping. And guess what? 95% or even more are going to be choosing free shipping unless they just have to have it tomorrow for some reason. And even then, they won't know if they're going to get it tomorrow because it's 3 working days, right? So what are you supposed to do? Here is a store that has solved this issue to a great degree. This is Livsozy, an apparel brand. Let's go to the checkout and see what they do. Click. Here, they have broken down their free shipping into 2 components: free shipping and $4. And the unlock here is that both the first method as well as the $4 method, they are going to be shipped by the exact same least cost shipping method. Now, what will make people choose the $4? It's that second line where they are saying, oh, it'll get there a couple of days faster, right? And what they will be experiencing is that about 8 to 10% of the time, the buyers are going to be choosing that second option just because they would like to get it a couple of days earlier. The real way to take advantage of this kind of arbitrage is to do what this other site does. This is a lactation supplements brand. And let's go to their checkout. I've added something to their checkout. And when you go to their checkout, this is what they are showing.
So even more refined.
Even more refined. The second option is telling them that they will get it in 9 days versus 13 days, because here it is predicting when they will get it. And again, it's going to go by the exact same service. There's no difference between the first shipping option and the second shipping option in terms of shipping cost. And because you are telling them that you'll get it 4 days earlier, in this case, about 20% of the time, and minimum 15% of the time, buyers will be choosing the second option.
Yeah, and I
Now,
think there's some additional things happening like sort of along the sidelines here too, right? Like they adjusted the messaging on the quick shipping to say most popular. It could be that that is the most popular, and it's actually just reading that. But I think that additional verbiage in the checkout flow kind of solidifies it as, the option that most people are going to pick, right? The most popular sort of emphasis on that too gives people the idea, it like draws your eyes to it. You see, okay, everybody's using this, and it's a lot easier to sort of select that rather than a blank slate where it's just three different tiers of shipping. I think it's small, but I think all the little things when you're talking about checkout flow and optimization of like cart abandonment stuff like that, I think little things like that do matter. So I don't think that's the main point you're making here, but I do think that that also adds to the experience of giving people that additional option. Sort of capitalizing on impatience, I guess, is the way that I would describe it.
absolutely. Anything that can be done to help, with your shipping costs is great.
Yeah, and I
So,
think it's sort of important. Sorry, just real quick to point out that it some people might see something like this as like you're adding obfuscation or something to your checkout flow, which from a certain lens could be true. But ultimately, like you said, Prakash, shipping is never free. Amazon has sort of conditioned the rest of the market to have to compete with them and offer free shipping, right? Because Amazon can afford, no matter what, to offer free shipping and give people all the free perks because they have that leverage. Whereas most sellers, it's eating into your margins, right? And if you want to recoup that cost and do what you can to keep your margins as tight as possible, this is one of the easiest ways to do it, right? All you're doing is adding an additional step that doesn't affect you operationally, right? Like this is at the end of the day, you're sending the product through the exact same fulfillment method, the exact same low, like you said, the least cost shipping method. You're just recouping some of that investment yourself, essentially. So
exactly. And you don't even have to, delay the dispatch of the free shipping. It's okay if they get it earlier, it doesn't matter.
okay.
No,
And what
nobody
would you say
complains.
to a seller that might just because I work with sellers of all different sizes, so something that someone might ask would be like, what if the average order value that a seller has can't necessarily support tiered pricing structures for shipping? What would you say to that?
Well, what you would do is, that third option is oftentimes, again, if your product is just, like a Temu type product, that is something you have to contend with in terms of making the price of the product itself, have your cost, shipping cost included in that, so that you're not showing a big shipping charge compared to the value of the order.
Okay.
But oftentimes, this third shipping option, the express shipping option, uh, that can that can give you some added value if your product is such that people may want it faster for some reason. But
Okay.
yeah, a lower AOV is always an issue in e-commerce. You have to
Yeah.
make it up with volume.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on that, I don't think it's directly related to what we're talking about, but when we're talking about AOV, I would say if that's a concern that you have as a seller, the best thing that you can do is optimize your checkout workflow even further, right? So this is just one sort of component to checkout workflows. We're talking about shipping, and we're talking specifically about how shipping economics, but if you're talking about average order values and increasing the efficacy of your checkout workflow, there's a lot more that you can do on that. So I would start looking into those low hanging fruit ways to bring more people into the checkout flow and keep people in it, because that'll increase your average order value over time.
Absolutely. And if there's some complexity to your operations, to not be able to do something like this, we are happy to help you guys out. That is really our backyard. Decimal lets you take control of this shipping section at checkout, so that your conversions are maximized and your shipping costs are minimized. And we do that by A/B testing everything, including some of the things that John, you were talking about, which is the difference between the first and the second option, in terms of 9 days versus 13 days. You A/B test that as well. The $5.99 versus the $4.99 or $3.99, you A/B test that as well. So we are constantly A/B testing for optimization of the shipping section at checkout. Okay, let's talk about the second issue. So yeah, just to recoup here, the difference between these two, between what Gymshark does and what LiveSozy does, is that they have broken the free into two components, free and $4. And to the buyer, the perception is that they will get it a couple days earlier if they pay a couple more dollars. That's the concept. Okay. Next. The calculated rates trap. I call it a trap because many merchants believe that if they accurately calculate their shipping cost at checkout, then they're not losing money on shipping, or then they can ensure that make a certain shipping margin, or ensure that they don't lose more than a certain amount on shipping. The main problem with that is that you're penalizing people that are far away from your warehouse, and that will, of course, result in more abandonment the further that they are. As you see in this example, you have a Chicago warehouse, and the buyer nearby is being charged $6.95 because you have accurately calculated your shipping costs, and the same cart, the buyer is in Seattle, you're charging a lot more. Why is it the buyer's fault that your warehouse is further away from the buyer, right? So the way to handle this is not to think about your shipping costs, that you need to make money on every shipment. That is the fallacy here. Now, the way to handle that, and these days it's much easier. Each month, you can just download your shipping report from ShipStation or ShipHero and just plug it into Claude or ChatGPT and just say, hey, what is my average shipping cost for a particular speed of delivery? Like, what is my average shipping cost for USPS Ground Advantage shipments? And it's going to give you that number, and you just need to monitor that on a monthly basis. And now you know what your average shipping cost is, and that is what you can apply. And now you're not penalizing someone that is further away, and it is going to help you in general with your overall conversions.
Yeah, I
And
love that. I think honestly, I think this second leak is a great segue from the conversation we just had about average order values, right? So like when you're talking about how you can sort of accommodate for average order values, this is another way that you can sort of build an ecosystem around that, right? So by averaging out the cost amongst your customers for shipping calculation, you're sort of offsetting any sort of barriers that you might have for people when it comes to the checkout flow. And I see, not to interject too much, I saw Matt had, oh no, it is Jimmy. Jimmy had a question or more of an anecdote saying, I ship a lot of glass jars and cans of seasonings, and I found out Ground Advantage works best. And that's great. Having a carrier that you rely on is great. The next question or the next part of that equation would be how are you presenting that shipping option at checkout so that you're not shocking people that are super far away, right? So just something to consider. Maybe not just for you, Jimmy, but your example is great, right? Having a specific carrier method that you've decided on is awesome, and then making sure that you're presenting that in a way that captures, um, prevents cart abandonment and makes people feel like they're getting a good deal on shipping, if that makes sense.
cool. Okay, next, and this is the biggie. At checkout, when somebody sees, okay, they see a shipping option that says delivered in 3 to 6 business days. People are now conditioned to see actual delivery dates at checkout. In fact, Amazon shows you the delivery dates and the cost of it even earlier in your process on the product detail page. They will just tell
Mhm.
you when you will get it. And so showing vague delivery expectations is the biggest cause of abandonment today. So you should do everything in your power to close that gap and provide as accurate information as you can at checkout. Now I realize that being able to do these predictions are when you need specialized applications like Decimal, which can do that accurately. However, there are a couple of ways that we will show you that you can actually um, close that gap somewhat. So here is an example. Island Trends, another known brand. You go to their checkout, and this is what you see, right? 3 to 4 business days. What is a business day? How do I know, right? What a business day is? I'm supposed to calculate when I'm gonna get it. How do I know when your warehouse is gonna ship it and all that stuff? So that is the underlying issue with it. Okay, so here is a store that basically changes that paradigm. And if you go to checkout, here we go. So they are showing in detail when you're gonna get it and for how much, including even stuff like overnight shipping, right? So
Yeah, this is great.
so their conversions improve significantly. I mean, we are talking, sales went up by a significant amount, not just conversions. Here is a store that takes it to the next level. So this is Uber Soccer, and let's go to one of their products and look what they do right there on the product page. I am, by the way, I'm in Santa Margarita, so it's figured that out, and it's telling me right there when will I get it and for how much. And furthermore, if I want to see all my shipping options, it's doing geolocation to be and able to calculate what options you'll see at checkout. And then if you do go to checkout, you will see is the exact same shipping options.
Yeah, I love that.
Uh, as a Now, if you don't have that ability, or don't use apps such as Decimal to be able to predict, um, this is what you could do. Um, Shopify does have a uh, show EDD function there, show estimated delivery dates. You could see if turning that on works for you. It's used in simpler cases because they're not able to accurately predict delivery dates, and then that causes some issues. Um, but they have a feature called Shop. Is right, John?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really good ad for this, I think, specifically. I'm sure everybody that has used Shopify or that sells on Shopify here knows about the Shop app. It's, built into Shopify's ecosystem pretty heavily. But I think it's really important to note that as a consumer myself who does use Shop, I think that is one of the other single most important things that you can do to give people visibility into your shipping. It's a little tangential to what we're talking about here in that it's not calculate Shop isn't doing the job of calculating your shipping. That's the show estimated delivery date function within Shopify. But I think giving people the option to check out using Shop and have all of their products tracked within the Shop app rather than having to rely on shipping what's the tracking IDs directly from their email. Shop does it
Mhm.
for you. I think that again, just more tangentially than anything, I think that is one of the single most important things you can do as a Shopify seller to increase conversions. I think it really helps your checkout flow because it's so easy to check out with. There's a lot of other tools that do similar things to Shop, but I think again, just to add, super important if you're not using Shop app or you don't have it built into your store and sort of optimized for your store, I think you're leaving a little bit on the table. But sorry, Prakash, you can continue.
Yeah, cool. That's great. Yeah. And then for most of your checkouts, you could do something like this. For each shipping option, you can have subtext that just says, for example, in this case, the cheapest one, it'll say shipped within 3 days, Monday to Friday, right? And the faster option, you can give more details that you ship the same day if ordered before whatever your cutoff time is, or the next day, Monday to Friday. So they have a better idea, at least shipping wise, they have a better idea. You could even say ship from, you can give your warehouse location, or your warehouse city state, so people have an idea. So each tier of the shipping option, you can give them more and more details so they have a better idea. If you are not able to provide um, actual reliable predictions of delivery dates at checkout. So those are the three shipping leaks, and we gave you some idea about how to handle those shipping leaks. Now, one thing that all merchants should have a handle on is your shipping cost, and in terms of shipping cost per order, broken down by what is free shipping costing you, uh, what is overall your shipping cost, what is domestic shipping costing you, what is international shipping costing, etc. So you need to have a tool or something that gives you a very good idea almost in real time as to what your shipping costs are. John, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's important to kind of call out again. Most of what I'm doing is calling out some tangential stuff, not direct. I think you're speaking to the shipping aspect better than I could ever. But when it comes to P&L, I think talking specifically about expenses, if you've been to any of my Thursday sessions that I do, the e-commerce clinic every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern, I talk a lot about P&L and how visibility into your expenses is the most important thing as a business owner or as a part of the accounting team. And I think this speaks to it, right? So if you're not getting all the information from every part of your business when it comes to the expenses and the profit itself, you're not making decisions based off of, and I say this a lot, you're making decisions based off of gut rather than actual data, right? So I think Decimal's P&L monitor specifically gives you all that visibility you need into what shipping at the end of the day is costing your business. And it also enables the things that we talked about earlier, right? You can get visibility into how the changes to your workflow are going, how the conversion is, increasing based on the options that you're giving it in shipping. So off my soapbox, but I just always like to reiterate that like getting as much data as you can as a business owner is the most important thing that you could do. Or I guess maybe the second most important. The most important would be using that data, but anything that you can do, any integrations that you can have to be able to pull in that shipping data, the expense data outside of shipping. So things like, if we're talking about Amazon, which is another good example, understanding the take rate that Amazon has for all their expenses through your settlement report, all that stuff is super important to make sure that you're keeping as much money in certain places that you can and not losing more money if it's avoidable, right? So, yeah, just wanted to add that sort of aside.
Great. Yeah.
And Matt, I'm gonna drop their link, Decimal's link into the chat here. And as we sort of mentioned, everybody that's attended here will get, the recording, some additional resources, and access to the shipping P&L monitor. If you wanted to talk about that real quick, Prakash.
Absolutely. So what it does is it monitors your Shopify shipping. And if you are selling on Amazon and the Amazon orders are flowing into Shopify as well, it takes into account all of that. And it'll give you a dashboard that you can set up thresholds. Let me see if I can see it. It looks like this. Here's an actual screen capture. And you can set up thresholds that you can be alerted at if the metric kind of crosses that threshold.
I
And the
love that.
thresholds are like shipping, free shipping mix going up or down, causing your rate um, overall shipping cost per order to go down or beyond what you are expecting. It monitors it constantly, and you will get shipping alerts, and it'll tell you which of your metric has been breached, so you can then take appropriate action for that. And
I think that's great. Yeah, I think uh, one important thing to point out is the alert system. I think that does a lot more than people might realize. When it comes to reporting, I think one of the biggest cumbersome things is that it's this idea that you have to continuously check and sort of agonize over, minute changes in data, right? Like it's very easy to sit and refresh a dashboard and keep hoping that the number goes up and to the right, right? So, having something that can alert you when it's an important, change or crosses a certain threshold, I think takes a lot of that cognitive burden out of the back of your head, so that you can just focus on the things that matter, focus on the rest of your business while this app or any app that's doing something like this can do the hard work for you, have the data there when you need it, but sort of like pull on your sleeve when things start to be serious enough for you to pay attention, if that makes sense.
great. Yeah. So, and if you have any questions, my email is right here. You can just feel free to just contact me, and we will set you up. And setup doesn't take much time. Carve out about 20 minutes or so.
And I know Travis just asked about the Decimal app cost. I just posted their pricing page here. I think again important to call out that when we're talking about this P&L app that Prakash has just demoed, that is something that you'll get for free as being an attendee of the webinar, right, Prakash?
Absolutely, yeah. And also, the cost that you see on our Shopify apps page, it's all flexible. It just depends upon what your particular case is. We specialize in complex shipping calculations at checkout. Our customers are primarily Shopify Plus and some Shopify Advanced stores.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, and Jan had a good question here. uh, very important, I think, to kind of bring up. What of those sellers that use 3PL? Does this sort of methodology, everything that we've talked about, affect the strategy when it comes to somebody that's using a 3PL?
So one of the issues with 3PL, although it's a great idea, is that you don't have much control over which exact shipping method will they be using for a particular checkout. So, being able to do the predictions becomes tough, but that's where you can utilize the other idea that we showed about saying, hey, um, you know, 3 to 4, we will ship it out in 3 to 4 days. We will ship it out in 1 to 2 days, and we will ship it out by overnight express if you order it before 10 a.m. my time and stuff like that. So those are the things that you can do. So you lose a little bit of control, but 3PLs overall, of course, is a great idea because they sometimes gives you the ability to deliver your order to the customer in 2 days via like ground shipping, cheap shipping. So those are great add-ons to the industry.
Yeah, and Jan mentioned you have a lot of options available with your center. I think that makes, this situation even better. The more options you have through your fulfillment center, the more flexible you can make that checkout flow, right? So as we talked about, having those options to be able to, it's all about how you present it to the buyer, right? So giving them a presentation that makes it easier for them to buy is the point of all of these changes that we're suggesting, right? It's reducing the visible cost to people that might be far away, averaging it out for people that are close, and it keeps it consistent across your entire customer base. I think that's super important. And then making sure that you're just tweaking little things here in the checkout flow to give people less. I like to call it just like a more frictionless experience, right? The less friction somebody has when they're trying to buy something, the easier it is for them to do those impulse buys. Not to feed into people's worst instincts, but impulse buys are good for you as a seller, right? So I know we're a little bit over time, but I did have just a couple more questions that I wanted to ask on behalf of sellers. Like I said, I work with sellers every single day, so I think I have a little bit of intuition when it comes to understanding what sellers might be skeptical of or want to know a little bit more about. I guess when it comes to you know, I know Decimal, you guys are heavily focused on Shopify. Would you say how much of this applies outside of Shopify, though?
Um, Shopify today, they've grown amazingly. So I've seen numbers like 75% or so of online shops use Shopify. Now there are others as well, like BigCommerce is pretty big, and then Salesforce is big as well for the real large brands as well. Um, we are not talking about selling on Amazon, of course, because then these are channels that all of these platforms allow as well. But yeah, Shopify is the juggernaut out there.
Definitely, yeah, and I think it's really a two-headed beast, right? Like when it comes to the market share when selling online, selling in e-commerce, it's Amazon and it's Shopify, and there's some competitors, BigCommerce,
Mm.
Walmart, if we're talking about marketplaces, eBay, stuff like that. But I mean, Shopify and Amazon, household names, they hold the leverage, they move the market, they decide sort of they dictate how things work. But like I mentioned, sort of at the beginning of the session, I think the methodology, sort of the philosophy behind the tips that Prakash gave, I think applies to everything, right? And it goes beyond shipping. I think if you have it in your mind that you want to make the checkout process, the buying process as easy, as frictionless as possible for people, you're going to increase your conversions over time. It's just it's common sense, it's logic, it follows that really really easily.
Absolutely.
Um,
The one thing to remember is that when the buyer has reached the checkout page, all you want is for them to click payment. So do whatever you can to make them cross the checkout page and go to the payment and enter their credit card number. That's
and
the whole.
that's where Shopify has Amazon beat, because where Amazon, it has its benefit of giving you that exposure and having your products in store listed publicly on their marketplace. Shopify gives you the flexibility to tailor that experience as much as you want. You can custom code much of your store using Shopify. So you can put buy buttons wherever you want. You can make them whatever color you want. You can, represent your products in the way that you want with, hero images and high quality images and videos and stuff like that. Where Amazon's pretty strict in the way that you can present things. It's pretty uniform to keep their brand consistent. So another thing to consider if you're on Amazon but not Shopify, or if you're considering using Shopify, or using it currently and just need to refine the process, just know that you have so much power to make that process better for buyers. I did want to kind of go back to Megan Turner's question that she asked a couple minutes ago. Do you have any tips for us, those of us whose shipping costs vary wildly? We have two types of orders: kits, 3 or 4 large boxes, or non-kits, usually a small or a medium box. So for people that have, offerings that are wildly different in weight, it sounds like, right?
It depends on your store volume. If your volume is on the higher side for your products, you should still do everything possible for the cheap options, which is typically the first option, to average them, like we discussed. Now, it doesn't work for all customers, right? So in those cases, you need to make sure that now you are actually predicting accurately at checkout what your costs are going to be. Stuff that, let's say you ship cotton, right? So now it's such a light thing, it's going to go in bigger boxes, so you're going to get charged by every carrier charges based on not just the weight but also the volume that it takes. So at that point it makes a lot of sense for medium to low volume uh, merchants to then be able to accurately calculate their costs at checkout, because you don't want to have a case where you lost so much on one shipment that it takes you 10 orders to make up for that shipment. So in such cases, it's a good idea to just calculate accurately at checkout using either an app or your own calculations that are more accurate, and take care of this issue of the person that's further away from you. You're going to have to charge more now, by trying to see if you can either go to a 3PL where they have multiple warehouses, so that becomes less of an issue, or see if you yourself, as you're growing, can have 2 warehouses spread across the country to be able to take care of that issue.
Got it. Love it. And I guess just a couple quick questions here. Maybe try to rapid fire them. I know we're at time. Thanks, Matt, for attending. Appreciate you being here. Last couple questions. So I know we talked about the free versus paid split. That was the first profit leak that we talked about. Offering that second step in between the more expensive option rather than free. Is there a point where that sort of option cannibalizes the free checkout volume? Do you feel that there's a point where it starts to become a worry that you're cannibalizing your free checkout?
Yes, that's a great question, and the answer is yes, it's possible. So how do you tackle that, right? The for example, you may say, hey, free shipping arrives in 15 days, right? And the second option, quick shipping for $4.99 or whatever, arrives in 5 days. That's the problem, that the buyers may say, hey, what is this? I mean, I can see through this issue. So the way to tackle this is to do A/B testing. A/B test everything, the difference in delivery time between the first and second option. A/B test that. Make it 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and see what works best.
Mhm.
The difference between $0 and the $4.99 is $5.99 better, $3.99 better, $7.99 better. A/B test everything. So one of our mantras is A/B test your shipping section at checkout, and that is the way to be in control of your conversions and minimizing your shipping expense.
Yeah, and one thing we didn't even really talk about this session was the sort of added variable. I know we talked about how, shipping is one of the highest variable costs that sellers have to, think about. But we didn't even talk about returns, right? And returns sort of take the number that we talked about with when it comes to the expense of shipping and, take it even further, make it even more of an expense. Is there anything that you wanted to add on the returns side of things?
Absolutely right. So now there are ways that you can charge a little bit extra. Now I don't know if you're still the attendees can still see your screen,
Yeah,
but right
yeah.
here in one of the shops that we were demoing, you can see here continue with checkout, without checkout plus, and continue with checkout plus, and checkout plus is the default. You know, that's where you are able to say, hey,
Got
um,
it. Okay.
pay for returns.
Yeah.
Plus will give you returns as well.
So yeah,
These
Onward
days-
builds in that sort of delivery
that's
guarantee,
right. Yeah,
shipping guarantee all into one. And I think that's a smart way to do it.
exactly. I think many stores are doing that now. Let's see. Oh, right here. Let's check this out. Where is the
And I think a flow like that speaks to the a customer's willingness to, be upsold in a certain way, right? So as a consumer myself, if I were to just see something that's like, package protection,
Mhm.
and I'm buying something that isn't, an expensive piece of electronic or, something that I'm super worried is going to get stolen or lost in transit, I'm probably not going to spring for the buyer protection. But if it's something that bundles in, shipping guarantees from a timeline standpoint, refund protection, and, return protection, I'm a lot more likely to buy it because it gives me a lot more value than just saying like, hey, it's insured if it gets lost, right? So
Exactly. So here is one that says again package protection checkout plus, right? And then these guys take care of returns if you are using that add-on for 673.
got it. Okay, yeah, I think that's a something
They
to consider.
says checkout with confidence, free returns and exchanges, package protection, blah blah blah, 673.
Another reason that Shopify might win out over Amazon in a lot of ways because on Amazon it's just up to Amazon how they want to work the returns. And for Shopify, for any customizable store, you can pick and choose how you want that flow to work and what you want to offer to customers. So great ad there. And then the last question I had, sort of just to wrap it all up. Again, sorry we're over time. When it comes to the questions and stuff, I feel like this is sort of like a value add, right? Like you guys get to get answers that you might not have thought the questions to. So the last
Absolutely.
question I had was if somebody were to only do one thing from this session, if somebody were to only take one, piece of advice from this session, what is the easiest or lowest hanging fruit? What's the first thing that they should address?
The easiest is the free shipping, because like we showed you the techniques, you can easily do it without any additional apps or any other help. You can do it. You don't have to do delivery dates, although that's what gives you a bigger benefit. You can just do what here, like this site does, right? Estimated delivery 5 to 7 days, 3 to 5 days, 2 to 3 days. And that is the low hanging fruit. But in terms of the most benefit, it is, of course, providing delivery dates.
Yeah,
And so those are the two levers that you can control.
love it, love it. Anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up? I think this was a really really beneficial session.
If we haven't covered anything, you feel free to contact us anytime. We'll be happy to um, take a look at your checkout or your shipping and be able to provide you with hopefully valuable information about how you can maximize your conversions at checkout, as well as attempt to minimize your shipping costs.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you, Prakash. And just one last note, just to kind of plug my own thing as well. Every Thursday, I know I mentioned I do what's called the e-commerce clinic. We sort of diagnose data related pains, profit related pains that sellers experience. So if you're a scaling seller, if you're not quite over that $1 million dollar revenue hump, it helps you see what your dashboard might hide or might give you the information that you didn't know. And if you're, more on the enterprise side, on the higher end of the professional side, where you're, $3 million to $20 million in revenue, the idea is to just kind of validate your assumptions and give you the information to make sure that you have a as tightly run books as possible. So that session is again every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. I posted a link in the chat, and you can register all time if you don't want to have to register every single week. There's a little checkbox in the form where you can just get the invite every single week, not have to worry about registering. You can only attend the ones that you want. Every session we send out a full toolkit that includes curated resources, a custom AI prompt for running your own numbers, worksheets, the full slide deck video, everything that you need. So you'll get that whether you attend or not. It's just for registrants. So again, appreciate everybody joining today. Thank you, Prakash, for being on here. We appreciate you guys over at Decimal. And everybody have a wonderful rest of your day.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody.